GM Joe Douglas says Zach Wilson is bye-bye. He's requesting a trade. He's allowing Zach Wilson to seek a trade. He said that at the Combine. Now, Zach Wilson, as we know, benched a few times, brought back as the starter. Some controversial things. Apparently, he didn't want to play when they asked Zach Wilson to play again. I believe that was the Texans game, if I'm not mistaken. He finally came back and said, I'll play. There's a lot of stuff going on between the Jets and Zach Wilson. A lot of people feel bad for him, and now it's official. The Jets GM says Zach Wilson is able to seek a trade. I want to know, how big of a market do you think Zach Wilson does get being the former number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft?
I'm not so sure. I think he shows he has a lot of talent, physical talent. He can run. He has a very strong arm. He's reasonably accurate. His problem is his decision-making, and he's shown that repeatedly over 2 seasons. Interceptions at very critical times, fumbles, just bad decision-making. And I think that's going to be on the minds of many teams that would consider him.
So you don't know how big of a market?
I don't think it's that big a market, personally. I really don't. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, I was going to say that I think there's a number of teams that could be interested in him only as a backup, though never as a starter, because just like I said about Baker Mayfield, he'll never be a starter. I think Zach Wilson won't be a starter again unless someone gets hurt. So I have a couple of teams listed here that I think could be interesting, but I wanted to just talk about, what the team could get, value-wise. What could the Jets get? So we knew that last year we saw Trey Lance get traded to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. The Browns traded Baker Mayfield away for a conditional 5th-round pick. The Jaguars traded away Gardner Minshew, who I still think is probably the best backup in the NFL right now. He got traded to the Eagles for a 6th-round pick. The Cardinals got rid of Josh Rosen. This blows my mind. Sent him to the Dolphins for a 2nd and 5th-round pick. I don't know how the hell you get a 2nd-round pick out of Josh Rosen. I really don't understand that. And then the Jets, Christian Hackenberg, people are like, why the hell did they draft him? They traded him to the Raiders for a 7th-round pick in 2019. So the value you get from Zach Wilson, who did show a couple games of promise. Last season we saw against the Texans, and last year against the Chiefs, actually. He played actually really, really well. Really well. And even against the Broncos, he had a couple moments there where he was good enough to seem like he could start again, with a little bit of help from Aaron Rodgers and his training. I think really if we're talking about backups only, because once again, I don't think he'll be a starter again unless a quarterback gets hurt, I think there are 5 teams that potentially could use him as a backup. The first one would be the Steelers, and this would only be for competition because the Steelers openly have said that they want to bring in competition for Kenny Pickett. They still have faith in him. I'm not sure why. He has interception issues. He's also not that great. There was a stat out there that I saw that he has the lowest touchdown percentage out of 400 quarterbacks. I don't understand how he's that bad. They have such great weapons. I don't think he was that great of a player coming out of the draft anyway. Kenny picked him off his first game, 3 interceptions. It wasn't pretty. The next team I would say is the New Orleans Saints, and here's why. The Jets were already planning on signing Derek Carr or trading for Derek Carr in order to mentor Zach Wilson as well as bring them some success. So why not do it in a form of sending him over to the Saints and Derek Carr could still mentor him there? What about the Colts? Well, Shane Steichen, what did he do offensively with Jalen Hurts? He made him a tremendous quarterback and helped that Eagles offense make it to the Super Bowl. Well, can he do the same thing of reviving Zach Wilson's career, especially with a potentially injury-prone Anthony Richardson, who seemingly runs into harm's way? Potentially, but also Gardner Minshew is still a great backup. I believe he is a free agent, so I would go and sign him again. I would say the Colts should probably re-sign him, but if they don't, Zach Wilson you can get on the cheap. The next one would be the Cardinals. For the same reason, kind of, as the Colts, of it's simply just this scheme. Mobile, athletic quarterback who has a pretty good arm. Kyler Murray has a pretty good arm when it comes to arm strength. Now, accuracy, don't love it. He's hit or miss. Zach Wilson's way more miss, but it's the same type of skill set. Mobile quarterback, big arm. I think that would fit. And besides, Kyler Murray will need to see how he progresses throughout the season, see if he has a true bounce-back season. After he played half the season last year, we'll have to wait and see underneath Jonathan Gannon what happens there. And finally, the Titans. I don't think Malik Willis is going to be the answer in case Will Levis gets hurt. And Will Levis is still a massive question mark being a rookie last year. So what will happen when it comes to the Titans? I say you go sign or trade for Zach Wilson, because I guarantee you the Jets are not going to release him. They may be forced to if they feel like they really need to get off him, but that would incur a massive, I think it's like a $12 million dead cap hit, which is completely pointless. If you trade him, you save about 5.4 and only incur like a $5.9 million cap. It might be 5.7 million, but still, the cap penalty won't be as crushing as it would be if you just straight out release him. Or you could take, the route of, even though we allowed you to take to look for a trade, we're not finding a suitable trade partner for you, so we'll just retain you. That could also be option C, I guess. You could keep him, trade him, release him. I think release him will be, if you really desperately want to get off him, that's the only route you would take. But I would say it's not a massive trade market. I don't think many teams, if any, are going to be, going for Zach Wilson and say, oh, yeah, we'll take him as our potential starter. I just think, if we look for a mobile athletic backup who could have 1 or 2 games that you need him to come in for, that's when I think you would take him in. But outside of that, I don't think it's that. Like, you're not looking for him as the starter.
Mm-hmm. What round draft pick do you think a team would have to give up to get Zach Wilson?
It would be a very, very low. We're talking 6 or 7. I would probably.
You think so? 6 or 7?
I'd probably. Late 5th, early 6th. That's probably what I'm thinking. He was
a second-round pick in the draft a couple of years ago.
No, it's not a second round. He was a second overall pick.
Oh, second overall pick.
He said second round, but it's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second overall pick.
It doesn't matter. Trey Lance was the 3rd. He went for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Rosen was I'm pretty sure, a top pick. And you know what? Lo and behold, I mean,
you got 2. You got second and a 5th.
The fact that the Dolphins traded him for the Dolphins got him for a 2nd and a 5th round, that's criminal. You gave up way too much for a complete bust. And that was what? He only played 1 season at that point. Yeah, it wasn't pretty when, that was a complete steal for the Cardinals. Good for them to be able to get that steal. But, yes, no, Zach Wilson's market's tiny. It's tiny. And, yeah, he has shown flashes. Is it the fact that the Jets' offensive line is terrible? I think that could be part of it. Is it decision-making? I saw him against the Patriots, was it last year? He tried to throw it away and threw it into Devin McCourty's arms. That isn't skill set. That's just bad quarterbacking.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's a lack of skill set.
As I said, I think he has a lot of talent physically, but mentally he's just made too many mistakes. Now, maybe in a different offensive scheme, he might be better. I don't know. I think he was trying to be the game-changing quarterback, and maybe he needs to be in a system-type, game manager-type role. I thought the Jets actually tried to make him a game manager-type player.
Well, they didn't have the team to make him.
And he might have been okay in that role, but the offensive line was so poor, he was out there scrambling a lot, right? And that's and trying to make those big plays that he made a few, but he made a lot of mistakes too.
I mean, if we're talking about the Jets trying to make him more of a game manager and less mistake riddled, I would say that their offense isn't tailored for game managers. We saw Aaron Rodgers out there. He lived for 75 seconds on that field behind that offensive line, and with those game-changing type players. You only have one player who you really could say is a game changer, and that's Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall, he's a very, very good running back, but is he some guy? You know what? I like Breece Hall. He's good. But you bring in Dalvin Cook. First of all, Rodgers is never going to win Executive of the Year when it comes to the Jets. The people he brought in, Alan Lazard was horrible. I think he had the worst catch percentage in the NFL this past season. Mecole Hardman, who we're going to talk about in a couple minutes here, he was basically a zero factor in the Jets offense. Randall Cobb, who someone once told me he was going to, with him and Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be in sync with one another. Rodgers lasted 75 seconds, but he was a walking mummy at that point. I don't know why Rodgers be like, yeah, we'll take an aging and not even that great of a receiver anymore in Randall Cobb. Tyler Conklin was interesting, but he wasn't game-breaking. The offensive line was abysmal. There was no sustainable pieces besides Garrett Wilson where you could say, like, okay, let's just feed him. Because Garrett Wilson, while he is a great receiver, he's not Devontae Adams where Rodgers could just blindly say he's out there, I'm going to try to find him, I'm going to send it his way, and I'll know he'll catch it. Zach Wilson couldn't do that. Trevor Siemian couldn't do that. Tim Boyle couldn't do that. And I think heading into next season, I think it's going to be difficult for any quarterback, whether it's Rodgers, if Rodgers gets hurt again, whoever's the backup, to still gain success with a team that isn't built for, winning playoff games and winning Super Bowls. The defense is unstoppable. The defense, I believe, improved from last year. I think PFF graded them as the number 1 defense in the league. The defense is fine. So if it comes to game managing in the sense of just don't turn the ball over, let our defense, other put up points or take away other teams' potential points. You could just go out and dink and dunk. Regardless, the offense didn't work like that. Nathaniel Hackett only has a job because of Rodgers. And it didn't work with Zach Wilson. LaFleur hated Zach Wilson, and that's why he's on the Rams now. So I think one team that definitely will not be looking at Zach Wilson is the Rams. And I just think Robert Saleh might be on his way out. Hackett's probably gone by next year regardless of what happens, even though I think the Jets aren't that great of a team. Rodgers is probably gone at the end of the year. So I just think the Jets are not built for a game manager. That's why they probably went for Rodgers, thinking he could still be a game changer with a suitable wide receiver one instead of Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs as his wide receiver one like he was 2 years prior.
Well, they're going to work on the offensive line, that's for sure.
You would hope so.
Try to improve it. I mean, it couldn't be much worse than it was. And it did cost them Aaron Rodgers for the whole season, basically, because he was sacked when he hurt his Achilles tendon. And Zach Wilson was back there scrambling around, too, because he didn't get much time to throw the ball as well. So I think the offensive line had a bearing on it. I do think that the Jets had talent this year in terms of a decent running game, and also Garrett Wilson as a wide receiver. Beyond him, though, they really didn't have much at wide receiver, right? It was just one. I mean, as you said, Lazard, he came up really small, and Randall Cobb only was in there for I think what he had 2, 3, 5 catches maybe.
He was horrible
season.
all year.
Yeah.
Well, so it's just because he's not.
They really didn't have. They didn't have much at wide receiver really beyond Garrett Wilson.
And that's why I thought we were overvaluing it. You know, when we went into the season, towards the beginning of the season, I think it was a perfectly fine question to ask: is were we overrating the Jets? Did all the Jets need was a quarterback? And the answer really was not at all. One of the worst offensive lines in the league. Running situation, there was only one running back that was actually good in Breece Hall. Dalvin Cook was a complete bust when it comes to bringing him in. He got released toward the end of the year anyway. And then you also had Tyler Conklin, who was not bad at all, but he didn't have depth at that position. And then Garrett Wilson was the only receiver you had that was actually viable. Alan Lazard couldn't catch anything.
Yeah.
Mecole Hardman got released and then picked up by the Chiefs and ended up catching the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Randall Cobb, gone. I mean, there was no sustainable talent.
I think if he can have for a very low-round draft pick, that's a number of teams might take a chance on him. You mentioned the Steelers. That's a possibility, although they look like they're it looks like Justin Fields now is Atlanta, right? That's what people are saying.
It's looking like it's minus 425 odds.
Yeah.
So that's by far up and away the favorite.
So that would mean that the Pittsburgh is looking at the quarterbacks that they have, plus maybe trading for one that wouldn't be Justin Fields.
Well, right now Pittsburgh is not in the best position.
They're talking about Russell Wilson.
Right. To go out and draft a quarterback, it won't be possible to get a top 3. They're at number 20 right now in the draft. There is no chance they're going to
draft one.
My guess is I think I truthfully believe they still believe in Kenny Pickett. Just a question of who you're going to bring in, because they're open with saying, yeah, we're going to bring in competition to sort of figure out if Kenny Pickett's the guy or is he really just a bust. Russell Wilson could definitely be the answer there. He's currently the favorite to be his next team because it looks like Sean Payton's done with him. I would still say Justin Fields because I think he could beat out Kenny Pickett. Because I don't think Kenny Pickett's all that good. I've mentioned the stats before with, as the game progresses, especially in the fourth quarter, Justin Fields gets worse and worse and worse. But I just think he'll still be better than Kenny Pickett overall. That's just my opinion about that. So, Zach Wilson, on the open market potentially. Let's find out if the Jets really think that they can get decent value for him. But I'm going with late 5th, early 6th because he did show some promise. I think his decision making was a massive factor in why he's no longer the Jets quarterback.
I'm rooting for him. I'd like to see him do well. Maybe a quality backup that gets some time once in a while, and maybe like Geno Smith over time he can. Grow into a starting role, but he's got to mature in the mental part of the game.
I would also say get out of a big market, get out of a big media market, get into a small media market, gain your confidence back because the New York market just obliterated. Even we had our moments of crushing Zach Wilson.
Maybe he'll go to Seattle.
There is a chance he goes to Seattle, but apparently
he could be Geno Smith's heir apparent, right? And do what Gino did.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.